these are organizations that must go beyond myself.
Right.
Yeah.
So, this aspect of, knowing when to pass on, knowing when it is time up, is this something that you feel Zimbabweans understand? And maybe not Zimbabweans, but just as a person, especially a successful person like you, is that one of your keys to success? To know when to say, you know what, let me pass it on. Let me step aside and let someone else who might be able to do it better.
Yeah, I think that there is a lot that we must look into. First of all, our culture has some limitations to that. Mm-hmm. But there is also some real good values where we share madzoro, in our culture that you must pass on. And also in our culture is that you want to know that your kids will do better than you. Mm-hmm. So I think there is, however, when we mix it with the Western culture that we've been raised around, then we get distorted. Right. And also the abuse of colonialism, tribalism, and whatever we've gone through makes us a little bit insecure, mm-hmm. and you find that leaders in their own right become insecure in moving on to their next level. Parents maybe struggle to release their children. It goes to those sort of levels. And I think it's something that we grapple with. And I always think that and say that a very successful person in their lives leave behind a very successful successor. Mm-hmm. That's the mandate. You want to see the guys that you've been grooming to doing extremely well. Extremely well. Right. In fact, even if you are in the background, just to know that I raised these young people. That's why I spend more time with guys like yourself, the young people.
You do, yeah. Now, on that note, regarding your legacy at African Sun, I want to ask you about the recent run for the UNWTO presidency of our Minister of Tourism. The tourism sector is obviously a big part and component of your business model when you were at African Sun. So what do you think about him losing? What do you think was the reason?
Well, I don't think he lost in a way. That's my view. My view is not about losing. I think it is a journey. I think he made a big impact. Right. The fact that he lost
at
the final stage meant that he has something to give to the tourism world, to put it.
International.
So I don't, people always think that you must just get that, but I'm sure there is another chance for him, not as UNWTO Secretary General, but for something else bigger for him. So these things always stack up, and you don't always must look at it as a loss and that, no, we should have done this. But perhaps on a different note, there is much more work to still be done at home.
Yeah. Maybe, know. But I guess that's where your spirituality comes in. So as I said, Dr. Shigi Munyeza, who many of us have known, like as I said just now, talking about African Sun, we knew him as a CEO there. He won award after award 3 years consecutively for his excellence in that industry. And many now know him as a church leader, right? As a pastor in faith ministries, a BCC church to be specific. And also now, we want to now understand that with the impact that you've made, Dr. Munyeza, toward the end of the show, of course, not now, because I feel like if we delve into this now, it's going to be a whole lot of, lots going to happen. But I want us to be very frank and be clear that we are definitely going to ask about political aspirations. And some of these questions, Doc, be aware that they're not coming because of what they know about you. They're coming because of what they think you should do, because people are watching. And some people would say, you know what, you have my vote. Right? So I think we'll get into that a bit later. So do stay tuned. Your questions, your comments are welcome on this platform. Send them through on Facebook, send them on Twitter, send them on YouTube. We'll get them and we'll post them up here. So now we're just going to take a quick break and we're going to play some of the headlining stories that have been happening around the world as we ease into this discussion. So get your fingers tapping and get your questions coming in for Dr. Munyeza, because this is your program. This is Ravenica Online, and we will be right back.
President Mugabe on Tuesday met King Letsie III of Lesotho at the State House, where they held high-level talks on various issues to enhance bilateral cooperation and cordial relations between the two countries. The meeting, which was part of King Letsie III's 4-day state visit, lasted for more than 2 hours. Government has introduced a tax management system that will limit interactions between the Zimbabwe Revenue Authority officials and taxpayers as part of measures to stem corruption. This came as Zimra yesterday launched an electronic cargo tracking system to monitor the movement of transit cargo in order to curb smuggling that is costing an average of $1 billion US dollars in annual revenue to the believed to be the boyfriend of a 22-year-old South African woman whose killing has shocked the world, has been charged with her murder at a court in Johannesburg. A widespread online campaign to find Miss Mokoena was called off on Wednesday when her father confirmed her death. The hashtags Rest in Peace Karabo and Men Are Trash have been trending across the country as women call for an end to violence against them. Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni has written a letter to his top security chiefs warning against the use of force. He described it as unnecessary and wrong and must not be used again. It follows media reports alleging that several people suspected to be connected to the murder of a senior police officer had been tortured. Former United States presidential candidate Hillary Clinton has launched a new political activist group dedicated to advancing the vision that earned her popular vote in last year's election. Announced on Twitter, Onward Together appears to be the latest venture by the former First Lady and Secretary of State after her shock defeat to Donald Trump last November. And in sport, Highlanders Football Club have been summoned to appear before the Premier Soccer League Disciplinary Committee next Tuesday for crowd trouble. This comes after incidences of violence when they faced Dynamos at Barberfields last Sunday.
Welcome back to Ruvenica Online. I'm in studio tonight with Dr. Munyeza, and we've got a special surprise at the end of the show. We're going to have a beautiful performance from one of my favorite Zim artists. I'm not telling you who it is yet because I'm sure some of you know, but please feel free to send your guesses. We've been talking about this all week online, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. So please do stay tuned for that because that's going to end off our show tonight. But as I said, with Dr. Munyeza, we're trying to cover 3 topics, which is not going to be easy, but your help, as I said, is more than welcome. Dr. Munyeza, we want to talk to you right now in this initial segment as the church leader, right? As the pastor. And one question that's come in is, please ask him his view on prophetic healing claims by various prophets and relate it to his belief on non-belief in Vadzimu. You're the leader of the Evangelical Church of Zimbabwe. So you play a key role in these kinds of conversations. What do you say about this?
Well, I need to define, first of all, myself. I guess earlier on when we were chatting that we need to define you, and I said, look, I need to define, as far as my convictions, belief system, I am a born-again Christian. So I'm one of those tongue talkers, I'm one of those devil chasers, I'm one of those who believe in the outpouring of the Holy Spirit, so on. And I believe that salvation only comes through the Lord Jesus Christ and Him that was died and buried, rose again, and is coming back. So that is where my whole belief and conviction comes from,
right.
And it is directed by the Bible. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about prophetic healing claims and so on, I am aware that there is the prophetic ministry that are in the scriptures, that through the power of the Holy Spirit, people are inspired, but it is how this has been perpetuated. I guess people think anything is prophetic. As long as something is mysterious, it's prophetic. Mm-hmm. There is the prophetic gift, there's the prophetic ministry, there is a whole lot that one has to delve into, and we don't have the time for it today.
But prophetic healing in particular,
yeah,
you know,
well,
which gets people to say, I'm not going to go to a medical doctor. I
well,
was told I've
healing.
been healed.
For me,
you know?
that's just normal healing that is brought through by the power of the Holy Spirit. So when people are healed and prayed for and they're healed, I believe that still happens.
Right.
Okay, so there's no doubt.
You do believe in that as a gift
gift
that Jesus Christ left
when
he
and that
ascended.
the Holy Spirit gives
Right.
us to, that the sick will be healed,
Right.
the lame will walk, and the dead will arise. That I believe that
Right.
that can still
Right,
happen,
right.
and that still happens up
Okay.
until now.
Okay.
So if we then talk about then Vadzimu, then I also say, look, there's a whole sphere and area of the occult, and there's a belief system that is out there. There's a whole lot of other things that I think requires a different conversation on it. I used to believe in them before I was saved. So I don't
did?
anymore.
Right.
Yes.
You grew up in that culture.
I grew up in
You
the
grew
raw
up in
areas.
Manikaland.
Yeah, I grew up in the
Yeah.
raw areas, and that's what I believed in until I got saved.
Yeah.
So I don't believe in that anymore. So I have a new life. My new life is the life that I have in Christ.
Right.
And that still happens to some people, but I believe that my job is not to be obnoxious to them. It
Sure.
is to win them over for Christ.
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, we look at many churches now that have grown and that are very popular. And one of the questions that comes around is the church now a business?
That's a very valid question. I must say this to you. The church should never be a business. The church should never be mistaken for some kind of personal gain. The church is where people who are sick. Christ says, I came for the sick and I came for the sinner, which means that it's a place where people come to get saved, to get helped, instead of a few people to benefit. In some cases, I must concede that it has become a business model. So yes.
So yes. And
Yeah.
for you, is it a business?
It's not a business role, and I
But
don't.
do you not have to run it like a business in a lot of ways?
I don't run it like a business, and I think that many of those who are around me know that it is run as a church. It's a place where people get healed, get helped, get counseled, get saved, and so on. And we don't have, we hardly ever have to cajole people to give money.
That's what I want to ask you. That, like you know, me saying that, do you not run the church like a business? There are certain overheads that need to be paid. There's salaries that need to be paid.
We don't
There's
mind.
things that go into the church
And no
for
more
it to
things.
stay standing. So my question is, in a time where we live in a cash-crunched economy, right? Without being too forward and saying, we have a point of sale machine at the door if you want to give your tithe or your offering, how do you get people to do that? Because I'm sure there's times where the input is dry.
Okay,
and
let
you
me- let me-
realize that you need to keep the
Okay,
church
let me give you
afloat.
what we do. What we do is that every 3 months, we put our financial statements to the church
Right.
in a public space.
Right.
So before the service begins, we say, look, this is how your finances have
Yeah.
been for the past 3 months. Here are our needs as a church to get this church that you come to,
Right.
to get children's church working, to make sure that we pay our electricity here and our full-time staff, paid administrators and so on. I don't have signatory to any of our bank accounts. I don't sign for that. I don't collect the money. Nothing gets given to me.
Right.
So all that also gets audited. So we get our accounts are audited by Deloitte & Touche, which is one of the leading accounting firms. So we get, we've been having a clean bill of health for the
Right.
past many
So
years.
what do you say to the churchgoer who does not tithe?
In their relationship with God, they will become more responsible about what they need to do to make sure that the organization or the environment they're in will also attract others to have a better relationship with God.
So the relationship with God and the strength of it will encourage them to give naturally because they
Naturally.
understand what
They-
tithing
they-
is about.
be-
Because you teach it in the
You
church.
got it.
As the church leader,
You
you
got
make
it.
sure every now and then you just throw it
You
in
got
there.
it.
Okay.
But don't manipulate them, don't
This is
cajole
the thing,
them.
you know,
Yeah.
sometimes pastors will stand there, then that little music, the piano starts playing, and they tell you about how you must give, and this is your year to sow seed. Some churches go as far as giving a statement to say, you know, this is your statement of what you've given this month. You know, give us your, your pay slip, because they make it actually mandatory to tithe. So, I mean, you represent the Pentecostal sect, and this is happening a lot in these churches. And as the leader of the evangelical sect, I would ask you to say, what are you doing to manage this? Because you might say how you say it, how you do it in your church, but there are many other churches, some that I believe fall under you, that are still literally manipulating people to give money.
I would not rule out that.
Yeah.
Let me not sit here and just defend. There is definitely abuses. But what I'm saying is that the fundamental aspects of giving are, when you look at the New Testament, and a lot of that abuse is because of people hanging on to the structures that God used for people to give in the Old Testament. But in the New Testament, the Bible is very clear that God loves a cheerful giver. And that is where the essence of giving should be. It shouldn't be given because if I don't give, I get into trouble. If I don't give, demons will come all over me. Or if I don't give, I fall out of favor with the leadership here. But God loves a cheerful giver. So it is there that the whole relationship with God.
But how are you managing that with
So
other
how?
church leaders? What's the
We have
penalty
been going
or
around.
what's the...
We don't
you know?
have a penalty for
Yeah.
that. the Evangelical Fellowship of Zimbabwe is not a governing body for the evangelicals, but it's a fellowship of evangelicals. So we persuade, we encourage, we try and counsel with various leaders on some of the abuses that will be going on. So periodically we meet as heads of denominations.
Yeah.
We flag out these issues that, look, this practice, we feel it's a stretch or it's being stretched and it has a potential to abuse the flock. The people of God, basically.
So you meet, but people still go back and do what they want to do in their churches.
So
what's
it is
the
a journey.
purpose?
It is a journey. It is a journey. So I don't think that you can achieve that because church is a voluntary organization.
It is.
So at some point, you also don't have the final governance and the authority to say stop it or else, and then they'll say or else.
So
what?
why exist? Just so you can meet and chat and have an extra title?
You could ask the same question: why does the church exist?
All right.
Because you could still walk out of church.
All right.
If you did something wrong,
Yeah.
and I say, look, Ruveneko, this was wrong,
Yeah.
and then you say, look, then I'm leaving. Then you leave. So it is a whole lot of, that's why I'm saying it's a relationship with God. That is our
That's
persuasion.
what you try to
yes.
focus on. All right. Now, there's a verse in the Bible, Romans 14, verse 21,
Okay.
that says, It is good neither to eat flesh, nor to drink wine, nor anything whereby brothers stumble, there is offended or is made weak, right? This is just speaking to the consumption of, alcohol and certain aspects of, human life. And one question that has come up a lot in preparing for your visit to our studio, Dr. Munyeza, is Dr. Munyeza is the leader of a church, but he also runs News Cafe, which is a bar/nightclub, where there is the excessive sale of alcohol and the consumption of, and sometimes underage people in there. What do you say to that as the name behind both brands? The church, News Cafe, what do you say?
Well, I guess first and foremost, I don't think many people who comment like that have been to the restaurants. Okay, that's a start. Whenever I've heard that argument, I then say, look, have you been there? I say, look, but we're here. So the first thing is that the product that is there is a restaurant that is a bar that sells alcohol. And let me just say this, 99% of the restaurants that are in Zimbabwe sell alcohol.
Right.
And they've got a bar aspect to it.
Right.
So let's put that basic description of what goes on there. In fact, it's a family restaurant.
Do you go there, perhaps on a Thursday or Friday night after midnight? Have you ever been there?
Yes, I've been there.
And do you notice that there are underage people there?
Well, we don't. There are security guards there, and if there is an underage guy, they will be removed immediately.
It's not often an underage guy, it's often an underage girl.
Well,
because women often just get let in at these places.
That is not true. Then the next time there is, put it on your website.
Okay.
Whenever you find somebody, they put it on a website.
Okay.
So that's
I think that's fair. I think that's an invitation to all of us,
So
because we're not trying to police our News Cafe, but we're speaking in context of where this conversation is going. You've been given permission. If you do find an underage person
Put it out
in
there.
News Cafe after hours in that environment, put it up.
Yeah.
Right?
So
fine.
So when you then look at that, and then obviously you're saying, how does it all match up? There is not one business under the earth that is righteous. Not even growing tomatoes is a righteous business.
Well, it's not explicitly,
Neither,
talking about drunkenness or debauchery.
well, this is nothing.
Selling tomatoes
That's
has
why
nothing to
you
do with
you can-
selling
you can abuse-
tequila shots.
You can abuse that. You can abuse food. You can abuse anything in life.
Correct.
So alcohol, drugs, food, anything that you can take in can be abused.
And those
Now,
three are all available in
Right.
your business
Let me say this.
operations.
Let me say this.
Right.
If I ran a telecoms operation, would you still attack me for availing pornography to young people? You would.
No, I wouldn't.
Why not? Because I've availed it. It's there.
No, but that's none of my business.
That's also none of my business that people
It is
then
your
get drunk.
business. It is your business because it is your business,
No.
right? Those are your businesses that you run.
I'm
And
saying-
then you're also the leader of a church, where in those church sermons you preach right? And in these places, and I would like our viewers to help us out here, just tell us in your own words what happens in places like this, especially after midnight. In places like this, we can talk about so many things, Dr. Munyeza. We can talk about men leaving their marital homes to go hang out with their small house. We can talk about drugs. We can talk about undercover drugs and talk about gambling. We can talk about so many things. But these are your businesses under your name as Shingi Munyeza.
I agree.
Right?
And I agree.
Then on Sunday, those that even have a hangover from Saturday night of being in News Cafe will stumble into church and then consume your word.
So what are you saying?
What I'm asking you, Doc, is how do you manage that brand?
Why do I need to manage?
Because it's your business and it's known, it's public knowledge.
What do I need to manage?
Some will question and say that's blasphemous. How do you preach against
where is
drunkenness?
It blasphemous?
It's not, so drunkenness is okay.
I'm saying, where is it blasphemous that I'm running a business?
No, the nature of your business and what happens in there.
I've just asked you, right, if I was running a telecoms business, if I was running, even providing Wi-Fi to people, in homes, in public, would you still condemn me for providing access to pornography because it is a product that they're consuming?
I think it's different because, no, it is different.
Why is it different?
In that sense, right, what happens in a household, right? That's in a household and it's private. A church is public, a news cafe is public.
So you say you could do something bad in a house?
Exactly.
So
people can still do what they do in News Cafe. They can do it in their homes, but no one's going to attach you to it because it's in a private home. Really? But we attach you to it because your name is on the brand News Cafe. Your name is on the brand BCC. So we're like, okay, this guy.
There is, right, you've just told me about tourism. You've just told me about tourism.
Which is part of your legacy.
Do you know that the whole of tourism, if you want to describe it, it is just a place of leisure?
Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that.
The leisure?
So you define me.
Do you want to define the leisure?
So what is wrong with News Cafe?
I never said there's anything wrong with it.
So that's what I'm saying.
I'm asking you as a pastor where some people are questioning. Let's come to our questions here, okay? Josie Mahachi says he is lying. How can he guarantee underage people are not in his club?
I'm saying they must show me. I'm not lying. I'm saying they must show me because it's illegal.
Okay, so he's insisting.
Oh, yeah, I'm insisting. I'm insisting. They must take photos. They must take photos, show them to me, paste them in public.
Here's another comment from Raymond Nyapotoko. Ranzi, Monday beer seller and Sunday pastor.
Fantastic. Just like I have just said, there is no righteous business.
There isn't.
There is no one righteous business.
But do you understand that I'm imagining if I was a mother in your church and I had a teen, right? A teenager who, when it's school holidays, goes to Borrowdale Village or goes to Avondale and is hanging out there. They are not
allowed. You've already used that.
No.
Teens are not allowed.
I'm saying teen in that area. I never said walking into News Cafe. There's Smooch, there's the movies, there's St. Elmo's. They're just hanging out, right? Yeah. And then they say, Mom, I walk past News Cafe and it looks so cool. Doesn't it belong to our pastor? Then I take that same teen into church on Sunday and I show him you and he's in awe of you. He's in admiration. He's like, my pastor is the best. He owns News Cafe. Surely there can't be anything wrong with me walking into News Cafe. How do you manage that teaching?
That is so philosophical because I work with young people.
You don't work with every young person.
I don't work with every young person.
No, you don't.
But I'm just saying it's so philosophical because you're actually giving an example that is philosophical.
Is that the only business you could have gone into? As a church leader, could you not have chosen something that's less controversial?
You tell me another business.
Anything.
You
could have made shoes.
Shoes?
Yes.
Where?
Okay, as we said, this live platform is for you. Please do engage with us. Questions for Dr. Munyeza. I mean, I'm here wanting to understand because, you know, I have heard so much about people criticizing you and I will defend. As I said, I do worship at BCC sometimes. So yes, I will sometimes stand in the gap and say, that's my pastor, you know, but at the other side of things, we cannot take away these arguments that it doesn't make sense. This is Summer Rose here. She's saying he is so defensive. Double standards in church. You know, so you're sounding like you're defending yourself so adamantly.
I've not. I've just said to you, Ruveneko, I'm saying, what is the real thing that is wrong? I've just asked the question.
So you see no wrong in running these restaurants that turn into whatever they turn into and still leading a church?
Every business has its bad side.
Right.
I've already admitted to that. Every business has its bad side.
So how do you manage your bad side?
Well,
and the effect it has on your image?
Is it legal?
The effect it has on your
image.
I'm
just saying, is it illegal? What image? I don't need a reputation.
Don't you?
I don't need it. Why do I need a reputation? Why do I need one?
Here I am intrigued about this comment because my next segment with
Why
you,
do I
Doc,
need
we've
one?
talked about church, we're coming into business, and my next segment with you is politics. Because
I don't need one.
I would wonder and expect that anybody who has any ambitions would care to have
I don't have ambitions for that either.
some kind of,
Why would I want to polish my image?
You
I don't
need
need
to.
it. I don't need it.
Here's a comment here. Baba Matipa Dillian in Harare. You are a game changer, Doc. Well done. All right. Some support of you. There's many people, like I'm saying, who definitely admire your work. And there's some comments that came in before the show that I also want to address on this platform as we just try and cover many of these topics we covered. I think I've addressed that one already. But we want to look at, okay, this one takes us a little bit back, but it says, which university?
Solus University.
Okay. It says, which university is your doctorate from, and
Solusi.
what is your thesis based on? Was your thesis
Business
based on?
management.
Okay, okay, there you answered. Another question from our viewers there. This one says, given that Zim is a Christian nation, do church leaders not have an important role to play to drive political or economic change for their flock? The silence from them is deafening.
I don't see where that is coming from, because as EFZ, as the Zimbabwe Heads of Christian Denomination, as singular pastors and apostles, we have said that things are not well in our country.
Yeah.
So I don't know where that comment could be coming from.
I think maybe they just haven't heard it.
They've
or
just,
felt it.
we've said it many times.
Yeah.
It's been in papers, it's been
No,
in public
I mean,
area.
we're
So-
getting into that. Like
so-
I said,
so I'm not
I
sure-
know that
I'm
you
not
have
sure where this is
spoken.
coming
Here's
from.
another one. He is the current president of Evangelical Fellowship of Zimbabwe. What is the church doing with regards to the political and economic situation in Zimbabwe?
Well, there's a whole, are we moving into that?
Yeah, we
okay,
can.
there is a whole lot of engagement. So the church has 4 pillars that it is using. First of all, we say we must, five levels of engagement. We want to have godly activism. We want to see people getting saved. The second one, we want to pray for our country. We want to make sure that there is a godly intervention on where we are. The third one is that we must engage our government, we must dialogue with them on issues that are prevailing. And this is ongoing.
Right.
And I can give you, whether it is the NPRC bill, whether it is the amendment number 1, the church is actually involved at a practical level.
Okay.
We do, I think people expect us to be screaming and shouting, and we don't have to do that all the time. There's a real engagement.
Right.
And then we also engage with civic society, the civic organizations that are there, and finding out what is there, what is being done, humanitarian situations, the floods that have just happened. The church is involved there.
Sure.
And then we also now are talking about our own personal raising of people who will be able to be the salt and the light in those situations, whether it's in civic society, whether it is in business, whether it is in government, and all sorts. So
Sure.
the church has actually a very broad and very aggressive and intentional strategy
Sure.
to engage our situation, because our situation is not to be left to just a few people.
Right.
Yeah.
Dr. Munyeza, as an individual, now we're moving away now from the church and his business, and we are, moving into the political discussion now. So if there are any pressing and burning questions around the church and business, we can save them to the end, or we might take a quick segment if we have time. But now we're moving into politics, so make your questions directed toward that. But as I said, we might take the pressing ones toward the end. But I want to ask you, Dr. Munyeza, you have been harassed before by what I'll put in quotations, the government, right, regarding your speaking out against certain things. In 2008, you went through something, and I'd like you, for the purpose of our viewers, maybe to tell us the highlights that you would take from that experience regarding speaking out against what you believe in.
I just think that, first of all, as a believer and as a responsible citizen, my job is to engage the government of the day. Wherever I am in any position or situation that I can influence what's going on. So
Right.
it's not only because I've been harassed, but I've worked with the government very closely
Right.
in many aspects. I've actually faced more harassment from the other side, where I was seen as working very closely with government.
Yeah, many people thought
Many
at some
people,
point that
yes.
you were ZANU-PF.
So, and then many people think I am on the other side. So
Right.
it is just because the nature that I want to pursue is what needs to be dealt with. So I can't pretend and be just hypocritical about our situation. Whenever things are good, I'm the first one to say this is good. If things are not good, I will also engage and say this is not good. So whenever I say it's not good, it's not because I would have said it's not good and because I stood on top of the mountain. I would have engaged the relevant authorities.
Is it true that in 2008 you did say Zimbabwe is one of the worst tourist destinations?
Never.
You never said anything of the sort?
Because I've worked so much for this product
Right.
from Zimbabwe. I never,
That you wouldn't speak
when
against
I,
it like
when I
that.
was harassed, it wasn't because of that. It was because of the pricing issue.
Yes, that you were, said you were overpricing tourists.
Yeah, no, it was because
Tourists.
of we were controlling prices in the hyperinflation era,
Right.
which resulted in hotel rooms becoming like $5 a room per night.
Right.
So it was not sustainable. It was
Right.
killing the product. So
Right.
we said, look, this pricing control is not working for our sector. So we decided that if we were to survive, we shouldn't go that route. So
Right.
obviously I was taken in for disobeying the pricing regulations that were
Right,
given.
right.
So that was 2008.
Yes.
Yeah. So we discussed, and then the authorities realized that I had a point. But
Yeah.
only 3 months later, that was in September, 4 months later, we were into dollarized multi-currency era.
Right, right.
And we wanted to charge in dollars at that time. And that was the problem.
That was the
Although
issue.
everybody else was charging in dollars, but illegally,
Right.
as it were.
And you wanted to legalize it to make sure
Yes,
that the
to
business
make sure
stays
that the
afloat.
business stays afloat.
Was that one of the things that maybe frustrated you out of trying to stay in that industry under the circumstances?
No, but that was 2008.
Yeah.
I mean, I stayed there for long enough, and
Yeah.
then we actually did some wonderful things and so on. So I wasn't really put off by that. It
Right.
was part of what happens.
Sure.
Even last year when I was talking about the bond notes,
Yes.
it was another situation where I felt that if the fundamentals were not handled, the bond notes will not work.
You did, let's get into that, you know, your 10-point plan, you know, that you came up with after there was a 10-point plan released by government, right, by the president. Was that a direct answer to what was in the president's 10-point plan, or was that independent of that? What's the link?
If you look at the 10-point plans that were given by the president, and you look at my 10-point plan, there is hand in glove.
Right,
I was
there is a
looking,
lot of similarities.
Yes, I was looking at the operationalization of whatever the president had said.
So you were saying this is good, but it can be, let's develop it.
Let's now put teeth to it. Let's
So you
get
were
it done.
agreeing,
It's like,
in
yeah, I
essence.
was.
It wasn't
in
anything
the president's
against.
10-point plan, there is absolutely nothing I disagree with.
So why was there so much negative press around you speaking about it and speaking the way that you did?
It was then forcing the feet to the fire. To say, look, now let's cut down the government expenditure.
right.
Now people say, we can't cut down the government expenditure. Now let's not introduce the bond notes.
Right.
Now, no, we can't. We've already made that decision. So it was now, let's get on with it so that people will not suffer any longer.
So one of your first point is government must immediately cut its expenditure and begin to live within its means, privatize or commercialize state-owned enterprises. Major retrenchment is overdue. This particular plan here, which, as you said, is hand in glove with what the president was even saying, which is why there was such a crackdown rather on, underperforming, civil servants. What do you think has been done so far regarding this point?
Very little in my own way. I'm sure there are things that are happening in the background which I'm not aware. But the measurement for this is cash. It's expenditure patterns that haven't changed. They continue to spiral, they continue to increase, they are maintained at the same levels in some cases. So if that expenditure is not curtailed, we will continue in this budget deficit, eroding savings, eroding the potential for investment, and so on and so forth. So we will not kick this economy back into life in the way that it should be.
Right. And then you also, just on that expenditure, your background is in finance.
Yeah.
Those that might not know, his background for years is in finance. And you also talk about land auditing, right, of our land. And at the end you say, sweat our major assets to the fullest to get maximum return on our investment. And my question to you is, they've been talking about this for a long time, government in particular, beneficiation, value addition. And we've been seeming to go around in circles, because of the nature of our economy right now. What would you say would be the best way to handle this particular point of yours?
The elements for our land to be very productive seem to be now assembled. For example, the Land Commission is in place. So the 99-year draft, I'm told that the 99-year lease draft is already in place. So the issue is, let's get it done.
Right.
Even sometimes in implementation, I think people wait for a perfect moment. There's no perfect moment for a crisis to implement and get people out of it. So we can start with what we have. So there must be, I know that the Ministry of Lands has been doing its own audit as well, but it needs to go back to the constitutional tenets or requirements where the Land Commission has to make sure all this is now happening.
Right.
Particularly, well, now that we've got the rains are back, and now there's the next agricultural season. Can you imagine what we could do when everybody is now being charged to produce on the land?
Right.
Yeah.
So you feel there just needs to be more stricter monitoring of that to make sure we get the best results.
It must. Let's implement.
And bond notes, you spoke very, very loudly against them. What's your position now? Do you feel that they make more sense now that they are actually in effect? And what do you think is going to come of this situation?
They don't, because of the many reasons. I mean, one of them is Gresham's law. You introduce a weaker currency, it kicks out the other ones. The strong one gets out. And the real issue is that the bond note as a fiat currency is actually an acceptable measure to implement by the monetary authorities. But you've got to have a discipline on the fiscus. So if you're not disciplined, right now, the biggest bond note is not the bond note that you and I use. It is our treasury bills that are increasing by the day.
Right.
Because of the budget deficit.
Right. So you feel that we haven't achieved anything and the worst is still to come in essence, as long as we continue?
Well, if we continue
the dollar has
that,
not necessarily been phased out yet. Obviously, it doesn't happen overnight, but it's becoming less and less available. But it's still the currency of preference when it comes to trading, with prices now being different for whether you pay in bond, whether you swipe, whether you use dollars, something like that. I mean, if you had a say on it, how would you monitor that? Because we end up in a place where we're heading toward hyperinflation again. Yeah,
it's a difficult one for monetary authorities, Arvind. The first thing is that you've got to have the transformation agenda on the whole economy. So that these tactics of fiat currencies and so on are able to augment what you're doing at a much more macro level.
Right.
If you are spending more than you're earning, if your exports are less than your imports, if you have no FDI coming in, your capital account is in the negative or running into the negative, it's all working against that. So it doesn't matter what you do. You can actually print more bond notes today, they'll vanish.
Right.
The other aspect is that Zimbabweans generally are underbanked.
Right.
We are a population that is underbanked. So we will need, in terms of transactions, we are going to use cash. So we've got to also ratchet up the process of e-commerce and so on. All that has to come into play so that people will end up using more the plastic money and not using the cash.
Right.
But also government must reduce its expenditure in line with its income.
Sure.
And then we must have parastatals that must work for the people and not just for the individuals.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I've noticed that your branches in Avondale have shut down, right?
Yeah.
And I want to know from you, as somebody who people do look up to in business, has this severely affected you, so much so that you've had to shut down those branches, or what was the reason to close them down?
Well, a couple of things is that the rental regimes were just ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah, so we're also in an environment where people are holding on to their own value proposition. So if it doesn't make sense, for me, business, if it doesn't make sense, shut it and move on. And reinvent, creative destruction.
Right.
And do something different. So you can't continue to milk the live ones and kill them because for the sake of resourcing.
Right.
Don't make the strong weak in order to make the weak strong.
Sure.
So you end up with a mediocre product, mediocre environment, and so on. So that's why when I talk about let's cut back on expenditure, let's rationalize state-owned enterprises, it's a practical journey for an entrepreneur. When business is not making money in a particular area, you don't keep putting money. You either shut it, rationalize it, or restructure it and make it more viable.
Right.
Yeah.
You also wrote another document, What I Would Have Done with 200 Million Facility and Severe Turbulence Ahead. And you've used social media as your communication platform of choice. Why is it that you're using social media? What are you finding in its strength that makes you post your thoughts, your views on social media?
First and foremost, that's the current and the future, the way of communicating. Everybody is now a journalist. Everybody now can say whatever they want. But it is in that space that you also want people to know if you've got something to contribute. For me, I only put stuff that I know that I am capable of contributing, and maybe it makes sense, and put it out there for people to argue. I'm not always right, and I don't think that I must always be right. So it allows for a discourse, a discussion. It allows a healthy building up of ideas. And I think that that has caused me to also engage with various people at different levels to understand that, and it all has been constructive, even with government.
We're going to now have to wrap up, unfortunately, with you, Dr. Munyeza, because, as I said, we have Gemma Griffiths coming to join us in just a moment. But we've got one more question here, and I want to just get into this here. You talked about, there's a quote from you, and I'd rather need you to confirm it or deny it. Apparently, last year in November, you were conducting a sermon called Current Affairs, Prophetic Exhortation. And one of the quotes that you apparently said was, "This thing called the bond note is not from God. It's a messenger from Satan to buffet us." Are these your words?
Yes, those are my words.
So this kind of teaching in the church, my question to you, Dr. Munyeza, is, are you itching to get into politics? Because this is almost using your pulpit to address political issues, political and economic issues. Highly understood that, you're allowed to preach on it in a church because you're a church leader, but I want to know that, are you itching to get into politics?
Definitely not. I'm not itching to get into politics, and I think that there is always a misnomer to think that we must segment and say, look, you must be there and not there. Now,
where are you?
Do you agree that we are all spiritual beings? As
Fair
a start.
and fine, okay,
right.
For the purpose of progress.
So, because you must believe in something.
Yes.
The next thing is, do you agree that we are all political at an individual
Political
level?
animals, yes.
Yes, at an individual level. So I don't think that people must feel segmented or annihilated or removed from discussing political issues. Now, when you go to Jesus' time, you will be shocked that parables and some of his examples and some of his confrontations were with the ordinary people, with the Sadducees, the Pharisees, the ruling elite of that time. So you cannot then say, was he trying to be a politician? In fact, when he was asked by his disciples, because his disciples actually wanted him to take political office, and he actually sidetracked them and said, look, no, this is not what I'm here for.
Okay, I've heard from some of your disciples that they would like you to run for political office. So is it something that you're considering, Dr. Munyeza? Come into the 2018 elections, are you considering on whatever level? Maybe you're starting from the bottom and work your way up. I don't know, but is it something that we can expect from you?
I have not put thought to it.
Really?
Yes.
Not at all?
No. My job right now is to satisfy the mandate that I have. So political office for me is something that can develop, but I'm not putting a lot of effort to say, look, I want to be a politician, I want to do this, I want to do that. No. I think that it will be something, if it comes, and I think that it is an opportunity and that God has spoken to me about it, I would do it.
And he hasn't spoken to you yet?
Well, I haven't asked him about it.
Really?
Yeah.
So 2018 is around the corner. So is it safe to say that for 2018 you're not in the running?
Why would
the clock is ticking.
Nah, Ruvenego, let me just ask you.
You can't start campaigning in January 2018.
So,
also given that I know certain things about you.
You give me a brief. So what do you mean by political office?
What I mean is, let's say for 2018, you decide that where you're from, your hometown, right? Being Nyanga North, you decide that you want to contest against the sitting Minister of ICT, Super Mandiwanzira.
Yes.
And you want that seat, okay, under whatever ticket, and you decide that you want to take that seat as a member of parliament, and start there. Maybe you'll be an MP for, who knows, 20 years. Maybe you want to launch yourself as quickly as possible, who knows. But let's start there.
Or you want me to be an MP?
Do you want to be an MP?
I don't want to be an MP.
You want to be more?
I don't want to be more. I want to be Shingi.
You want to be Shingi, not in a political office of any kind.
Whatever.
You seem unsure. You actually seem like this is something you have put thought to, but maybe not ready to announce it. Maybe maybe it's not the right time.
You know, let me just tell you my journey. When I was training as an accountant, and if people ask me that, would you ever want to be a marketer? I would be unsure. So I ended up becoming a marketer.
Right.
When I was a marketer, if people asked me that, would you ever want to be a hospitality practitioner? I was unsure. And then when things progressed, I became a hospitality practitioner. So when I was there in those stages, if people asked me that, would you ever want to be a pastor? I was unsure. And I've been a pastor. People actually think that I've been a pastor for the past 2-3 years. Been a pastor for 25 years.
Yeah.
So I was unsure.
So how you answer? Do you see how you're answering me right now? You're already speaking like a politician.
So no.
You're struggling to say yes or no.
Why?
I have ambition next year to perhaps. Because for
contest. You, there is a yes and a no.
Pretty
answer.
much.
Now for me, there is no yes or no. I want to be me.
Okay, but you as what? Because remember I said at the beginning of the show.
What am I doing now?
How do we define this man?
Why do I need to be defined?
The church, business, and
why
now
do I need
politics.
to be defined?
Okay, let's remove the term definition.
Yeah, why do I
let's
need
say
to be
understanding
defined?
you, right? You've got people that really support you and look up to you. So they just want to know where the next step is for Dr. Munyeza. Where is he going next? What can we expect? Shall we vote for him? Shall we support him? Shall we look in those offices for him or not?
So if I give you the answer that I gave you, you still feel it is insufficient?
It's not really an answer. You said
why not?
You said something about hearing it from God, and then something about,
Of
to
course,
be fair, I can't
that's
touch.
How I work.
Your answer is so intangible.
I have to hear from God.
Okay, so we wait for you to hear from God, then you'll let us know.
Just like I walked the journey from being a businessman.
I think he wants to be in there, but he's not yet ready. That's my assumption. I don't know.
Oh, that's the assumption of your audience.
We're going to have to wrap up, unfortunately, now. But thank you so much, Dr. Munyeza, for your time and your failure to answer direct questions. Even though we've given you 50 minutes of our time to say everything, and not put you in any corners. But just to, and the least we deserved as people of Zimbabwe is to hear whether or not this man will be on a ballot box next year.
Leave me alone to be myself.
We'll take it.
Leave me alone to be myself. But thank you, Venego.
Yes.
It's been a good evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It's been good.
We want to give you something to take with you. And I want you to go and enjoy some coffee as you wait to hear from God. You and your wife, please may we have those. Paida, can I have our gift, please, for our guest? This is for you from us, especially going into the winter season, Feel free to put soup in it, coffee, tea, whatever it is. Thank you.
Oh, wow.
All right. So that's for you.
More coffee again.
Yes, and for your wife.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you to you and your team. And all the best for Veneco.
Thank you so much. All right, that's it for this segment. And as I said, stay tuned because wrapping up our show tonight, we are going to extend a bit longer just because it's that amazing. I've got Gemma Griffiths coming right here, right now. So stay tuned. Do not go anywhere. We'll be right back.
I said I'd go with you. I regret it now. You said we'd take a trip. You had it figured out. And this is not what I wanted when they said the grass was greener here. It always looks a little better from the other side. I see our heartbeats gone in overdrive. Now I'm stumbling like a deer in headlights. I see our heartbeats gone in overdrive. Now I'm stumbling like a deer in headlights. I never wanted this to feel so out of place. The pulsing in my veins, it hits like drum and bass. And to the girl in the corner, no one warned she would lose control. And now she's looking for some sense she'll never find. All I see are heartbeats running out the drive. Now I'm stumbling like a deer in headlights. All I see are heartbeats running out the drive. Now I'm stumbling like a deer in headlights, like a deer in headlights, like a deer in headlights. Deer in headlights, you got me hypnotized. Deer in headlights, you got me hypnotized. Deer in headlights, deer in headlights, deer in headlights, like a deer in headlights.
Welcome back to Rabbinical Online. We just had a whole discussion with Dr. Shingi Munyeza, and we had a hard time trying to push him into a corner in the last segment, but you know what? Time reveals everything, and we are grateful for his time that he's given us today. And now I'm wearing no shoes because she's wearing no shoes, so I'm just adopting that life. Gemma lives in Cape Town, which is one of my favorite places in the world. I lived there for 5 years of my life, and welcome to Rabbinical Online.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
It's been a long time coming.
I know it has been.
It's hard to pin you down, girl.
It's nice to finally be here.
She's always everywhere. Even when she's here, she's busy. When she's away, she's unavailable. Things are going well for you, aren't they?
They are. It's been a great past year and a bit. Yeah.
Good. And what do you do when you're in Cape Town?
When I'm in Cape Town, I've actually just finished what I've been doing, which was recording my debut EP, which is going to be coming out at some point. That we'll let you know.
Yes.
So I've been doing a lot of that.
Yeah.
Cape Town's sort of my creative space. I come
Good.
back to Zim. And
It's got that vibe, doesn't it?
yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely. It's
Yeah.
the best place
Yeah.
to sort of
To find yourself.
collaborate and
Yeah.
stuff. But
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time back here. Every month I'm back here for a bit to do
Yeah.
a show or to sing
Still
on
very
something.
connected
It's
to Zim.
Absolutely, and I
Yeah.
wouldn't have it any other way.
So, as an artist, I mean, you are a white artist in
am.
Zim and highly celebrated now. And I think a lot of people, many people were like, who is this Gemma? But many were like, absolute dream, So you'll find that there's different markets that never heard about you. So what do you do to try penetrate the markets that have never heard about you and that would never know about a white Zimbabwean artist?
I think it just takes, at the end of the day, I think music can connect across all barriers.
Right.
And that's that's always been my goal
Right.
to break down walls and be like, we can all enjoy something similar, no matter what our backgrounds are, no matter how we grew up or where we grew up across the world. And I'm thinking internationally now, that I'll get texts from people in Australia who've seen a song that I've sung in Shona and have loved it, even though they have no idea what
Now, do you
I'm
speak
singing
Shona?
about.
Unogona
Ndinogona.
Mbichana.
Ndirikutaura.
I love that. I love the effort.
Dirikudzidza, Tishona.
I love the effort. Living in Zimbabwe, I'm sure you can all identify that. As black Zimbabweans, we have learnt the language, but some of our white Zimbabweans don't even bother. Just something as simple as mamuka say, magadi. Not Ojishaya, but at least Gemma here is making
How
the
could
effort.
you not? It's the most beautiful language to sing in as well.
Right.
Oh my goodness.
To sing in, yeah. And we've heard you singing in some of these languages, and in Shona in particular. And I'm so excited to hear you sing. But before we even go there, Gemma, you've done some collaborations, and you've just done one big one, which we played played just before we got into the segment with Gemma. But I want you to tell us about that collaboration. And I mean, looking at YouTube, it's the highest hits that your name is identified with.
Yes.
So let's talk about marketing yourself as a Zimbabwean artist. What are the challenges that you find to get your name out there? Do you have to collaborate in order to be recognized and resonate internationally?
You know, I think there's really not one way to go about it in this business, because there isn't one formula to get your name out there. My biggest goal has always been to do something that feels organic with me, so that that collaboration came about completely organically, and we loved working with each other, and I loved the music, and I've often strived to just do something that's not only true to myself, but something that's different.
Right.
You know, and you've got to make your mark, you've got to make your opportunities.
Sure.
And there really is no one way to get up there. And to be honest, my goal is the journey, you know, because before looking at the big goal of, you know, being a well-known singer, looking at the business side of it, I'm an artist who creates art. And I got into that because it doesn't make sense for me to do anything else, because I love it.
Right.
So I think as long as you're doing something that's organic, people are going to notice that, because they're going to see, like, wow, this girl likes what she's doing, or this is really her, this is unique.
And she's good. She's amazing.
Girl.
And we got some comments here. TK Mugandu and Tungamirai Gunundu all send their greetings to Gemma. So you got some people watching and shouting out there.
Guys.
Those of you that are watching, I hope that you're prepared. And I'm so sad for you if you've never heard her sing before. But you're going to hear it right here for the first time if you haven't. And she's all over social media. Her Instagram pictures light up my life.
Girl.
I'll be scrolling my timeline, and she is a ray of sunshine every single time. So do follow her on social media. She's Gemma Griffiths, and Gemma Music on Twitter, and Gemma Mill Griffiths on Facebook.
Just Gemma Griffiths as
Gemma
well,
Griffiths, okay. So Gemma, I'm going to hand over to you now.
Awesome.
And I'm going to ask you to, you know, perform for us.
I will
on our
indeed.
little stage. Sorry, it's not as flashy as what you're used to.
No, it's stunning.
There
It's
is an audience, I
perfect.
promise.
There is one, hi guys.
So take it away.
Awesome. So
Yes.
this first one, I thought I would actually do an acoustic version of that song
Right.
with the collaboration that we talked
Yes.
about. It was with a DJ called Askry from Switzerland. That's just gone
Where did you even find each other?
through people, actually, through other work that I'd written.
Right.
And yeah, he just got in touch. You know what? I'm gonna tell you the truth. I've still never met him. But we've
That's the
had
power
our
of
like
how the world works
our
these
phone
days.
calls and Skype
Yeah.
plans and everything.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So go for it.
this is
Here's
it.
the
This is
acoustic version of
headlights.
what you just watched.
Ooh.
I said I'll go with you. I regret it now. You said we'd take a trip. You had it figured out. And this is not what I wanted when they said the grass was greener here. It always looks a little better from the other side. Oh, I see our heartbeats gone in overdrive. Now I'm stumbling like a deer in headlights. Oh, I see our heartbeats gone in overdrive. Now I'm stumbling like a deer in headlights. You got me hypnotized. I never wanted this to feel so out of place. Pulsing in my veins, it hits like drum and bass. And to the girl in the corner, no one warned that she would lose control. And now she's looking for some sense she'll never find. Oh, I see our heartbeats gone in overdrive. Now I'm stumbling like a deer in headlights. Oh, I see our heartbeats gone in overdrive. eyes like a deer in headlights, like a deer in headlights.
So beautiful.
Thanks, girl.
Absolutely beautiful and effortless. That voice of yours, Gemma, it's so unique, and you get that all the time, I'm sure. If this was the voice, there'd have been like 4 buzzers, like turning around to hear you be like, I want her, I'm stealing her. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. And there are many people wowing this right now. You know, people just here saying, Gemma has a beautiful voice. That's Talent Zirenga, Tasha Cannon, and Mika Ab. There are people watching, so people on Twitter as well. Gary Griffith's family member.
Dad!
Is that your dad? Hey,
Hi,
Dad, we know
Dad.
you're proud of this ray of sunshine. Sammy Edgar on Twitter says he loves what Gemma does with Shauna's songs. And then there's Tendai Muchenje who says, Ndiko ka baby, keke wandisa bigi man pa piano kahaka. Kano roba music manje. And on that note, I mean, I don't know if you'll allow. I mean,
Should we do
you've
it?
done some Shauna songs. You also did recently Ja Praise's
did.
Dada
Dada
Chao, yeah?
Chao, yeah.
And you did Sarowe Biggie Man, and that
I
came out last
did.
year, and I think all of us were just like, wow. Some people had never even heard the Winky D rendition, and they heard yours, and they're like, well, let's try and reverse it. Would you please?
I
on my
absolutely
request.
will.
Would
I
you?
absolutely will.
Okay, so that'll be Gemma's last performance. As I said, follow her on social media. She is a busybody. She is an amazing talent, and she's our very own. And our purpose here is to celebrate our own, to see how we can support and grow one another. So this is Gemma. She's contactable on social media. As I said, find her at Gemma Music on Twitter, Gemma Griffiths on Facebook and on Instagram. So Gemma, if you could just end our show for us today with Musarova Biggie Man.
Are you ready?
I'm so ready.
Dakacher, Musara Bigaman, Baba Musara Bigaman, Dinindamu Pinza Muna, Dinindamu Pinza Muna. He caught me red-handed with a boy beside my bed. It's not what it looks like. We were talking, that's what I said. It's not his fault. I invited him to stay. Daddy, don't be mad, but you were mad anyway. Dakache, Musara Bigaman, Baba Musara Bigaman, Dinindamu Pinza Muna, Dinindamu Pinza Muna, Dakache. Musara Bigaman, Baba Musara Bigaman, Dinindamu Pinza Muno, Dinindamu Pinza Muno. You caught me red-handed, it won't happen again. It's not what it looks like, said I promise we're just friends. It's not his fault, he didn't get here on his own. Daddy, don't be mad, please leave big man alone. Dakache, Musara Bigaman, Baba Musara Bigaman, Dinindamu Pinza Muna, Dinindamu Pinza Muna. Dakache, Musara Bigaman, Baba Musara Bigaman, Dinindamu Pinza Muna, Dinindamu Pinza Muna, Dinindamu Pinza Muna, Dinindamu Pinza Muna. It's not his fault, didn't get here on his own. Daddy, don't be mad, please leave big man alone. Dakache, Musara Bigaman, Baba Musara Bigaman.
That is a slow clap moment, and I want to thank you so much, Gemma.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being a talent. Thank you for being so true to our country.
Girl.
And always staying connected and being proud of being one of us out there. You know, some people, they go out there, then they lose their culture. Huh? Yeah. They really lose their culture. So I want to thank you so much for that. Thank you for being. I was streaming you live on. We were live on Periscope just now. If you follow us on Twitter, so I captured some moments. But Gemma, thank you, and we'll continue to support you and watch your star rise and rise, and all the very best with everything.
Oh,
and shout out to Taponeswa Mavonga. We love you. Thank you very much. That's it from us tonight on Reveneko Online. Thank you again to Gemma. You should see her legs, by the way. She's sitting there, but you should see her legs. But we do have something to give you.
It's beautiful.
We want to thank you for joining us. I don't know if I was supposed to give you two. Do you have a special someone you drink tea with?
Not in this country.
Okay.
My mama, I guess.
Well, we'll see what we can do behind the scenes. But this one's for you,
woman.
Gemma. Thank you so much.
Bruce,
remember us wherever you go, and we will really remember you and support you. So thank you again. And thank you to our sponsors and partners, Kuyana Events, for this decor, for making our set look amazing and come to life. Davies Events, as usual. Kuyana Events, they're on social media. They are Kuyana Event Design, Instagram, Kuyana Event Design, and they're top event and floral designers here in Zimbabwe. So thank you so much. And I also want to thank Selena for styling me today. It's been great. And I want to just say thank you to my team behind the scenes, as always, for making this possible. So that's it from me. And tomorrow we have a special edition. If you remember last week, we were supposed to take you to Manicaland province, one of my favorite parts of Zimbabwe.